So, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome in truly across the continent today for a very exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. I know we've got a lot of familiar faces, we've got a lot of newbies joining us today, too. So, if you are joining us for the first time, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. Everything we do goes to our YouTube channel, so you can check out like 4,000 past broadcasts and this one there anytime you'd like. Lots to explore and discover. And of all days, I'm really excited you're joining us as part of our Parks Adventure series. Now, over the last few weeks, we have partnered with the amazing folks at Parks Canada to feature stories of cultural heritage, wildlife, conservation, and more. We love working with Parks Canada. They're some of the best people on planet Earth. I really encourage you to check out the whole series and our finale coming later this week with Anne of Green Gables out in Prince Edward Island. Now, before I turn you over to our speaker du jour, I want to note we do have a Kahoot today. So between our talk and our Q&A, if you want to play along with a little 4-question quiz, you can pull up this game pin and do just that. A little test understanding, have some fun for bragging rights in the middle of the show. Now, I'm so excited of all the people, too, that you're joining us with, that you are joining us live in Wood Buffalo National Park with Helen Panter, because she is one of the most fantastic educators I've ever partnered with in 4,000 broadcasts that we've done in 10 years. So you're in for a real treat. She's all dressed up as always for us, and we're going to head there to learn about sled dogs and warden patrols. Surely one of the coolest, literally and figuratively, topics in our entire series. So thank you so much, Ellen. Welcome to the broadcast. It looks very chilly where you are.
Hello. Yes, it is very, very cold. Thank you. Thank you, Jesse. Good morning. It's still morning where I am. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ellen Pinter, and I work for Parks Canada up in the Northwest Territory. I'm super excited to be here today to talk to you guys about dog sledding and Warden Patrol in Wood Buffalo National Park. But let me set the scene a little bit before we get into the subject. Imagine a vast wilderness. You can look at the map behind me. Imagine a vast wilderness, snow covering the landscape, snowdrifts swallowing trails, and silence only broken by the sound of snowshoes, of toboggan, and the breath of dogs. In the heart of Wood Buffalo National Park, the temperature is below minus 35. It is December, January. It's very, very cold. Men are venturing in a remote area, patrolling places where maybe there is no existing trail. Their mission, going for a 10-day patrol with their friends, their sled dogs. With their team of 5 dogs, they are eagerly waiting. The dogs are eagerly waiting outside the cabin, waiting for the warden to be ready for starting their trek and their journey. The lead dog is waiting for the command to start their journey. Let's go, boys! The lead dog got the cue, and here they are, venturing in the wilderness of Wood Buffalo National Park in this cold winter. Here today, I will be talking about sled dog and warden patrol. Give me 2 seconds. Jesse is excited.
Very excited.
I keep going.
You can go for it.
Oh,
Take us
okay.
away. Yeah.
I'm just gonna remove a layer because it's
Okay.
quite warm in my studio now. And then I will bring my presentation on screen for you. So, like I said, my name is Ellen Pinter and I live in Fort Smith in the Northwest Territory. Lucky for me, I have some friends joining me today to do the presentation. So, give me 2 seconds. I will bring my presentation on screen for you so you can see where I am and you can learn about the history of Wood Buffalo National Park. There you go. So, like Jesse said at the beginning, I live in Northwest Territory. So, I'm lucky to be not only working for one national park, but I work for 4 national park and National Park Reserve. So, on the screen, you can see Nahanni National Park Reserve. You can see Natsicho National Park Reserve. I also work for Taidanini National Park Reserve. And the subject of today, Wood Buffalo National Park, is appearing on the screen. You can see the little dot where I live in Fort Smith beside the largest national park in Canada. Wood Buffalo National Park is 44,742 square kilometers of wilderness, of boreal forest, of vast frozen area in the wintertime. Sorry. On the map, you can see those three little dots. Those were the places where, around 1924, 1925, dog camps were established. And I'm going to touch on dog camp in a couple seconds. So today, like I said, we're going to learn about dog sledding and warden patrol. Give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to pop my other right here. So like I mentioned, Wood Buffalo National Park is the largest national park in Canada. So in my backyard, I have the pleasure to go a lot of time in Wood Buffalo. It was established in 1922 to protect and preserve the last roaming herd of wood bison who are freely roaming around the park to these days. Also, Wood Buffalo, because we're largest national park. Wood Buffalo is the largest dark sky preserve, has the largest land mammal, which is the wood bison, and also the longest beaver dam as well that you can see from space. But let's go back a little bit in time at many years ago when dog sledding was part of the daily duties of warden and also park staff. So dog sledding was kind of starting early 1920, 1930 in Wood Buffalo National Park. Of course, dog sledding come from indigenous people from this area that used to ride their sled for many years, way before the establishment of Wood Buffalo National Park. They were using different material to build their sled, and of course, certain selection of dog were best suited for the northern climate and the northern temperature. Of course, nowadays the dogs are a little bit skinnier, faster, so they're made for speed and distance rather than back in the days they were made for strength and also to be able to stay warm in the cold winter. But maybe you wonder, well, Helen, you talk about warden, you talk about dog, you talk about the largest national park in Canada, but what would a patrol looks like? Well, nowadays, we know that when mushers, like I have a little example right here for you, mushers, when they use their sled, they will have a lineup of dog with them. So usually nowadays, the musher will go in very nice track trail. But back in the days, patrollers, warden, were going in places where maybe there was no trail at all. You can see on the picture where the dogs were going. And it was very hard to travel in places where maybe there was only a bison path. So those dogs were working very hard, and even the warden were working very hard to make those paths, to go from one warden cabin to another or from one land user cabin to another. So they had to travel thousands and thousands of kilometers during the winter time. If you have never seen what a dog sled look like, let me show you right here. So this is my friend Catherine who run her dog. So nowadays we can see groom trails, double dog are pulling the sled and they are going quite fast and those already packed trail. Back in the days, they were not going in those kind of trail. And also, they were often single file going into those trails as well. Wardens were using all kind of type of dogs. So on the picture, you can see the single file. So the way it works is there's always different dog that do different function into the dog sled. So you have the first one, which gonna be at the front of the pack, and I should have more of those, but the front of the pack will be the leader. He's the one that received the command from the musher. That's the person at the back. So the leader will lead the rest and will listen to the musher. If the musher, in this case the warden, say G, that means right, and ha, that means turn left. So those dogs at the front know all the command. After that, you will have the power dogs. So the power dogs will be the one that are stronger, that they will move the sled fast, and they will help pull the sled into different area. At the end, you have the wheel dog. These dogs too will help stir the toboggan right here and will help turn into the corners and help pull. So often the wheel dogs are quite strong too. The middle dog will be very stronger, faster too, so they can help pull the entire toboggan as well. And of course, different breed of dog, like type of dog, were used in back in 1930, 1940 to help the Warden travel in the national park. So the five breed of dog were the Siamese, the Malamute, the Inuit dog, the Huskies, and the Greenlander. So basically, if you look at my studio here, I have probably here our Husky looks like a Malamute as well. Maybe it's a mixed breed. And this one right here looks a little bit like a Groenland dog, but could be also similar to a Husky as well. So those were the strongest dog that were used back in the days to go and be able to travel many kilometers. As an example, when the Warden were going to do their patrol, they will be traveling thousands of kilometers. So one Warden in a matter of one winter could travel up to 3,000 kilometers. So that's a lot of kilometers. And often they wouldn't be able to do that in a day or two. They will take longer. And most of the time, with pack of or a group of 5 dogs, you will be able to travel between like 50 kilometers. It will take you about 5 to 7 hours to travel 50 kilometers. So can you imagine traveling 3,000 kilometers during the winter? That will take longer and it will take a lot of time. Often when the Warden were leaving the main quarter with their sled dog, they will be gone for a week, 2, or even longer, depending also of the terrain. If there was a trail there used either by the land user and wood buffalo, or maybe a bison path, or maybe it's a brand new trail that they have to make the trail, make the path, so it will take even longer. When they were traveling, of course, sometimes we say, well, Ellen, you talk about winter, but what about the summer? Summer, they will be using horses. But for this presentation, we're more going to focus on the winter time with the sled dogs. So if you look on the map, you see that orangey part. That part is where the Warden will be mainly traveling. That's where the patrol cabin will be, where they will stay in between coming back to dog camps or in between the headquarters and the patrol cabins. And also these routes, and you can see on the map behind me here, there's tons of routes here. They also they will be going, and often they will follow like waterways, because most of the Warden cabin that were used were following the fur trade, where people were going from one community to another. So often you'll see the main channel right here, the Peace River, the Quatre Fourches River, the Slave River, and those were fur trade route used back in the days. Like I said, there's different Warden cabins along the way, because if the patroller or the Warden had to stay during the night, they try to reach a cabin, but sometimes it would not happen. So they have to stay outside. So in their sled, they will be always carrying extra hay for the dogs so they can put that on the ground, or they use spruce bough and then some hay so the dogs can sleep during the night on top of that rather than on top of snow. They will also always have extra blanket, food either for their dogs or for themselves, and extra gear to be able to stay overnight. And of course, some nights maybe there was a storm, so they had to find shelter somewhere. Sometimes they will find shelter underneath a big spruce tree. Sometimes they will be finding the opening of a cave, maybe. And of course, if they reach a shelter, if they reach a warden cabin, that's where they're gonna stay. Dogs will stay outside, warden will be warm inside their cabin as well. This is what a warden patrol cabin looked like many, many years back, around 1930, 1940. So it was quite rustic. And it was working at that time. Often the warden will just stay in one night and then we'll move on to the patrol unless they had to patrol further or closer to the cabin. Then mostly they will be staying only one night and then carry on to the next place or the next cabin, depending where their travel was leading them. 2 seconds. Oh, there you go. So how it works is they have dog camp, what we call. So basically, dog camp was an area where we need to keep the dogs. So the dogs work hard, pulling the supplies, trenching through the snow, and then going 3,000 kilometers during the wintertime. In the summertime, they needed to rest. They needed places where they can stay safe. So dog camp was established around 1920, 1930, 1925, I do believe. So that will be a safe place for the dog to stay. So basically, many dogs were there. At the beginning, it was close to the Quatre Fourches River. So the Quatre Fourches River on the map will be close to the Delta area, and it's a convergence right here closer to the delta where there's four kind of rivers that will branch together. So in this area right here, that was the first dog camp that was established. But of course, more patrol were needed, more space was needed for the dogs. So they moved dog camp to a largest area. So basically around 1930, 1940, the need to have a larger space dedicated to dog camp. So they move a few kilometers downriver. From a rock outcrop, they move to a more open field where the dogs will stay. You can see the cabin at the bottom right pictures. This is the warden where the warden was staying. So a little bit more, less rustic than the other wooden cabin, log cabin, a little bit more because they will be there during 2-3 months. So they needed something a little bit more furnished, a little bit better than just those log cabins. But the log cabins were perfect for those long distance too, and make sure that the warden were able to stay put during the night and be warm as well. During the dog camp, this one at Quatre Fourches River, there was up to 50, 7,500 dogs there. Dog camp at Quatre Fourches River around 1945, 1950 was kind of a gathering place as well. A lot of trappers, hunters from the area were not going to Fort Chipewyan, but will rather go to dog camp. So over the summer, you'll have 100, 150 dogs at dog camp. And then it was more like a gathering place where everybody will bring their dog. They will, that's going to be a good place for training, a good place for feeding them, and make sure that the dog have plenty of the training, enough and plenty of food to be able to do their task and be able to pull the sled when it comes to winter time. Some of the buildings, some of the residents at different dog camp was slightly different. So on the left pictures, you can see those were the beginning of dog camps. So early 1920, 1930 was very rustic as well. But over the years, the building got a little bit better. And then the warden and a staff that were staying at that camp too could enjoy a little bit more modern days a cabin as well. What did they do? Maybe you wonder, well, during the summer when the dogs were at dog camp, what did they do? Well, around 1957, a little bit after dog camp 2 at Quatre Fourches River, a lot of dogs were moved to Sweetgrass Station, which is another dog camp, and I'll talk about it in a couple of seconds. So basically, it was how many dogs were there? Like, okay, there's barely any dog, maybe 24, 50 dogs at that time. But then we always need to keep them in a central, and that's why dog camps were created. Instead of having a couple dogs here, a couple dogs there, they wanted to centralize. So when it was time to do their training, it was easier to train them as a team rather than train a couple of them as leaders or a couple of them as wheel dogs as well. But for the staff that were there on duty and care for the dog at dog camp, they had many things to do. So it was the care and the welfare of the dogs was primarily their first task. So they needed to make sure the dog were safe. They needed to make sure that the dog were fed, and they needed to make sure that they were healthy. Because in that region of wood buffalo, of course, there's wolves around. And sometimes, even during the patrol, Warden were saying that they were chased by wolf, or the wolf were like going around and scouting and looking at them. So it was very important during the dog camp time that patrol was done also to make sure the dog were safe against other type of wildlife such as wolf. Training was also very important. Training the leaders so they know the command, they know when to start, when to stop, and make sure that you know which one of your dogs is either a leader or will become a leader as well. There was some little pups that were born as well, how to train them to become sled dog as well. And of course, feeding the dog was kind of one of the main duty as well. When we think about feeding the dog, we think about what do they eat in the summertime. So we need a lot of meat and we need a lot of fish. Dogs will eat a lot of fish. So we can think about, in terms of fish, we can take about thousands and thousands of fish were needed every year to feed the dog. Needed also to cook that fish because they were making kind of in a big pot some fish stew mixed with some pieces of meat, often meat such as bison or moose, and that's what they will feed the dog during the summer or the winter time as well. Some fish were kept and were thawed out and then cut into chunks to give to the dog. But of course, how do you keep like thousands of fish semi-fresh, or how do you keep them over a certain amount of time? So often they will dry them. So they had those kind of a big building where they will make a fire at the bottom, and then there was some slats where they will put the fish on top and they will dry them or smoke them so they could preserve them even longer. Most of the fish that you can find in the area of dog camp were like whitefish and lake trout as well. So quite big, maybe long, not big like that, long fish, and maybe that big of a fish. So you can probably gather 1,000, 2,000 fish, or even sometime 3,000, depending on the size and the number of dog you have and the size of the fish. So you will gather a lot of fish to be able to feed your team of 5 dogs during the winter time. So about 3,000 fish for 5 dogs for the winter time. So that's a lot of fishing. Some workers that were at dog camp, that was their main duty, just going and go fishing all day. For some people, that's their dream job, but fishing all day to be able to bring food to the dogs. Then in around 1950 to 1962, Sweetgrass was established, another big area where mostly there was a small community at Sweetgrass, and it was made for the vaccination of the wood bison. But of course, there's a beautiful little Sweetgrass Creek that flow by. Perfect location because that was a community of about 13 buildings. 70 people were staying or living at Sweetgrass to work on the vaccination of bison and also for the care of dog at dog camp. Sweetgrass was the last place where there was a dog camp established. Dog camp at Sweetgrass was a very large area. At that point, there was about 150 dogs at Sweetgrass. So many more than one warden were patrolling the area. So many teams of 5 dogs and patrolmen were able to go and patrol the park. When I say patrol, most of the time the wardens were patrolling to look for wildlife, to look, stop at land user cabin to see if everything. But sometimes they might have been poaching, or maybe sometimes they just needed to look and travel the land to make sure everything was right. At that time, when they were traveling, there was no satellite, no GPS. They were not using any technology, so they were using land features such as trees, creek, outcrop, any other land feature they could see. And of course, they were using a map, a compass, but they were using their dog that they were well trained to be able to venture and travel the area as well. So the dog act as a friend, but also they act as a good leader to lead them in the right path. Often, and the warden were saying that the land teach you how to listen. If you listen to the wildlife, you listen to the wind, you listen to the trees talking to you, but the dogs often will teach you how to lead. And that's a quote I really, really enjoy. There was a family, a small community at Sweetgrass, like I said. So, of course, people had children. So the children were spending time with the pups most of the time. So both of them were learning at the same time to become a dog sled or to become a warden or a musher as well. So Sweetgrass was a nice little community in 1950, 1960. There was another camp that was established at a camp closer to Fort Smith where I live, and mainly the dog because all the camps were on the shore of rivers and creek. They needed to be looked at. Of course, the warden and the staff at the dog camp were taking care of the dogs, but they needed to be looked at by a veterinarian. So they were put in boat to Hay Camp. That could take 3-4 days to get there by boat, and there they will be examined. They all will have a name, a tag, and they all be like looked at by the veterinarian to see if they are healthy. So they do that in the spring, and they do that in the fall as well to see over the summertime if they were well fed, well trained, and if they are ready to go and patrol, to help the warden patrol the park in the winter. If they were not ready, then they will most likely stay at dog camp to be able to gain all their strength and also get maybe more food or care that they need so they can go the next winter patrol in the wilderness. And like I said, Sweetgrass was around 1950, 1960. But around 1960, that was the time where the need for dog was not as needed. And of course, new technologies came to play, such as a snow toboggan. So Warden were like, well, maybe we can travel more, we can do more kilometers if we use some snowmobile, snow toboggan. So around 1960, it was said that no more dog camp will be in use. So they will save. They decided to save on staff and the food. The food was pretty expensive, and enough money in 2 years that they will save in dog camp will be able to buy one or two snow toboggan. Nowadays, of course, the warden will patrol and use snowmobile. Even the land users that are going in the park will use uh, snowmobile as well to go from one place to another. Some dogs are still in use, not in Wood Buffalo, but in many other national parks across the country. Some dogs are still in use in national park. Often you will see them more when we talk about search and rescue. So those dogs are trained to help find the people that have maybe ventured in some area of the national parks and got lost. So those dogs are in use at that for that function now. I will finish this presentation with a short video of one of my colleague when I was at the Quatre Fourches River at dog camp in the past March, where you will see him traveling with his snowmobile and then his traditional sled, a little bit like I have behind me here. And he is getting to dog camp, the second one, where it was used in around 1920, 1960. Give me 2 seconds, the video just stopped. Sorry about that. And then dog camp nowadays is used for traditional purposes, but also it is used for research. So this research that we did at dog camp at the Quatre Fourches River was for health, that's for muskrats research. And we spent a couple days going around the land and learning. And I learned quite a bit also about dog camp as well. So I hope you enjoyed. This is the end of my presentation for today. Jesse, I
Um,
will give you the
We're back. Yeah, we're good. You can come out of screen share, see us again, have a bit of a conversation. We're going to start with our Kahoot. I've got to say, for anyone who ever gets the chance to actually go on a dog sled, it's one of the coolest experiences you can have in Canada or the world. I've done it in Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories. So much fun. Can't encourage it enough. And it's just a really unique thing that you can do on this planet. So do check that out if you get the chance. And Yellowknife's just great in general. Northwest Territories, where Len lives, is an awesome spot. Now, we're going to dive in with our Kahoot, 4 questions to test some understanding, have some fun, and then we're going to try and get a question. We're going to do a question per class, and if you have extra questions after the broadcast, please do email them to us. We're a little short on time, so we're going to sneak in as many as we can over the next 10 minutes or so, but we're going to get underway with our Kahoot to begin. There's over 80 of you in, which is awesome. The faster you answer, the more points you get, and what you win is Helen and I's everlasting respect. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, and kicking off with... where is she? Where is she right now? We talked about this a bunch at the beginning. What national park is it? Banff, Wood Buffalo, Jasper, Gross Moor. And we have featured all of these over our year here on the Parks Adventure and Peak Discovery series. I want to note too, looking up Wood Buffalo, or looking up our spoiler of our correct answer, for those who hadn't put it in yet, it's bigger than Switzerland. Like, it's the second biggest national park in the world, which is super cool. And most of you got that right, I think, before I even told you what it was. So, way to go. Amazon iguana. Question 2, which I won't spoil. Which of these breeds can be a sled dog? One of them is the answer. Is it a Chihuahua, a Great Dane, a Husky, or a Labrador Retriever? It might be in the picture. It might have been featured on a slide. There are 4 others. I would not personally want a Chihuahua-led sled dog. I don't think they'd get very far. So that's your hint of the day. 94 of you in. What a big Kahoot. This is awesome. Okay. Husky, of course, is our correct answer. We had Malamute. We had Grunland. We had a bunch of other dogs there. Changes our leaderboard. Soaring Shark takes the lead. Question 3. We're going to go to Mr. Hancock's class first in Q&A in a minute, by the way. And then Miss Haboyan's class, you're going to be second. What is a favorite food of dogs in the dog camps? Fish, bean sprouts, store-bought dog bones, or mice? Maybe not dog bones. My dog likes dog bones, but it's harder to source up in the high north. So let's see. 97 answers in. Yes, fish. Fish are delicious. Also, the best fish I've ever had were also in the Northwest Territories, lake fish. So go get some fish when you're there too. Soaring Shark has our lead. Okay, this final question, no points. I just want to know, have you been to a national park? If you're in Canada or the States, hopefully either way, you've been to a Canadian national park because we've got some really cool ones up here. But if you've been to an American national park in the US, that's great too. We just want to know, who's been to a national park? Get those answers in. Let's see what we've got. I can tell you some of my most special experiences in my life have been in national parks in both Canada and the US. Of course, we're on our Parks Adventure series here in Canada. Oh, 50-50 split. Okay, well, the 52 of you that said no, leave this broadcast. You have our permission to skip school tomorrow and go to a national park. You don't actually, but go as soon as you can. That's what summer is all about, is national park exploration. All right.
Come visit me.
Yeah, come visit. Go to Wood Buffalo if you can. It might be a little far north, but you can fly in the general vicinity. Golden Bear third, Amazon Iguana is second, and first for all our marbles is Soaring Shark. Way to go, everybody. Thank you so much for playing along, and we are going to dive in with our questions now. So, Mr. Hancock, Georgetown, come on in and take us away with our first question. There we are. Hey, guys.
Awesome. We're just celebrating the community here, Jesse. One of our students was wondering, what's the overall speed? Like, what's the fastest they can go?
That is a very good question. Thank you. So depending of the number of dog you have. So if you have a small team, they can go 5-7 kilometers an hour. Like we're talking about maybe 5 dogs. But if some dog team have 10-12 dogs, so they can go 15-20 kilometers an hour. So depending on the size and the strength of the dog, but more dog you have, more power you're going to have as well.
I can tell you some of those values sound kind of small, but I was on a dog team with 6 dogs and it felt like we were absolutely flying. It felt way faster than being in a car by a huge margin, I can tell you. So if you get the chance, you'll feel what 7 kilometers an hour feels like when you're being pulled by dogs through a forest. This is a Boyan's class. Come on in, our first California crew. If you guys have a question, come on in, take us away. Hey, hi.
Nicholas, you're not.
What if a dog was sick? What if a dog is really sick? Or what if they couldn't come or if they had a broken bone?
Great question. If a dog gets injured or sick.
Well, if it happens during the winter while they are patrolling, so the warden will either remove that dog from the dog sled and will put him in the basket, like in that. It will bring it and put it in the toboggan, so the dog will sit here. If he is very, very sick, he may try to bring it to the next headquarters, or he will try to bring it as close to another dog so the dog can be taken care of and be healthy. So if during the patrol that happened, the warden will remove that dog, will readjust the dogs into the line and put the next dog in the basket. If it happens during the summertime at dog camp, then there's trained staff that are there to take care of the dog. So they will have everything they need to make sure they take care of the dog, because that's one of the main duty of the staff at dog camp, to make sure the dogs are healthy and ready for winter patrol.
What a nice question. And I wonder if the dog's ever fake sick so they can ride in the sled. That sounds like a lot of fun. Maybe not.
I don't think so. Dogs want to run and they want to pull. That's what they're made for. So often, if you have never seen the beginning of a dog race, the dogs are yapping, they're jumping, they're excited. They're just like, let's go. And then as soon as they hear the sound of the horn, if it's a race, they get quiet. You can hear nothing, all the yapping, all the jumping, and they're really into task, and they go. That's what they want to do. They have no time to bark. They just want to run, and then it gets quiet. The only thing you hear is the sound of their breathing, or the sound of the sled on the snow, or the musher that is telling them what to do. But it's amazing to see the beginning of a big race.
I've
Yeah.
never been around more excited animals than the sled dogs that I had. So
Right?
again, check it out.
Yeah.
Check out some cool videos. We're going to sneak in 4 questions before we wrap up here. 3 from all our live classes and 1 from YouTube. And then you can email me more at exploring by the seat of your pants. Mrs. Fisher's class, we're going to head to Carsonville first. Miss Crocker and Miss Barajas. She'll be our last one. Come on in, Mrs. Fisher. Hey.
How fast?
Sorry. We were wondering what happens in the summer, right, with their fur.
Yeah, with their fur.
That is a very good question. So we know, example, if we look at my big guy here, in the wintertime, the dogs will have more fur. So to keep them warm, so they have different layers of fur. In the summertime, of course, when they get very warm, here we talk about 25, 30 degrees Celsius in some area, they will shed their fur. So they will be the outside layer, like you can almost grab it and the fur will stay. So they will shed that excess fur to make sure they don't overeat. And another thing, that often they are beside a creek or a river, so the dog can go and paddle in the water as well to be able to cool down. So they will shed all that extra layers,
Just
the
like
outside
me.
layers of their fur.
I got a haircut now that summer's here, and
Yeah.
I'm going to go jump in the pond immediately to cool down. So I'm with the dogs.
Right.
Miss Crocker's class, come on in salmon arm. Welcome in, guys. Unmute your mic, and you're good to go. Hey.
What if they get lost?
What happens if they get lost, Ellen?
You talking about the dog or the warden and the dog? Everybody get lost?
Everybody gets lost. Yeah.
Well, it can happen that they get lost. Usually the warden will have a compass and a map, but the dogs are very well trained for tracking, depending what their mission was. Okay, we're following wildlife to see where they go, or the patrol. So it could happen they get lost, but most of the time, because the warden is very good at land features, they can find their way back. If not, they're going to pay attention to the birds, winter birds. Oh, they're going to pay attention to where the river or the creeks were. So they say, example, I know the creek is always on my right. So then you're going to go right, trying to reach back to one of those land features to be able to find your way. If they haven't found their way, then they will stay put for a moment, let the dog rest until they can go back, or they will double back where they come from. And then from there, they're going to rest a little bit and try again, different way, if the trail wasn't marked or hasn't been made yet. If they are like making the trail, that is a little bit harder on the warden and on the dog, that's for sure.
It's a great question, guys. Thanks so much in salmon arm. We're going to do a rapid fire YouTube one, and we'll wrap up with Miss Barajas. Caesar in Nicaragua wants to know, are the dogs happy to have that job?
I think the dogs are made for running, made for pulling. Some breed of dog, that's what they want. That's what they want to do. So going in the winter, pulling sled, running thousands of kilometers, that's what they are made for, and they're very happy. Often they gonna just want to go. They don't want to stay in the summertime, like stay in their little dog. Like cows, they're just like, oh, I want to run. But they were able to run in the summertime too, but a little bit less because they get warmer.
Very cool. Thank you, Caesar, so much. Miss Barajas, Oxnard, if you want to come in with one final question, and then we'll bring everyone in for a big thank you and farewell, you're good to go. Hey.
Is all the dogs boys?
Ooh, interesting.
This is a very good question. Back in the days, they had a mix, and even now they do. So those are the boys and the girl. They are mixed in for the dog sled. Depending, some people, some musher really want just a team of boys because they're stronger. But nowadays, and even back then, there was both boys and girls pulling the sled.
This is a great Q&A. I know it was a little short and sweet, but please do send us extra questions. We'd love to hear from you. I really encourage you to check out our Parks Adventure series. We're live at Green Gables to wrap up the week on Thursday, so lots of cool stuff there. Hélène, such a pleasure having you on. Excited for the French one in just a minute. I know you're heading over with Alex, but we are going to bring in all our classes to say a big thank you and farewell first. So Mrs. Aboyan, Miss Crocker, Mr. Hancock, Miss Barajas, Mrs. Fisher, thank you so much, everybody.